As promised, second video of the day, second interview. This one from CEO of BlackRock Larry Fink, breaking down the launch of Bitcoin ETFs and how they look at this financial product and how they are approaching this. And it's wildly more mature and thought out than what we saw from the earlier video from Gary Gensler. We'll link that down below if you didn't see it. And I think this is going to be a really easy sell for financial advisors. Yes, it's new, it's emerging, most people don't understand it. They're not going to get into is Bitcoin used for a payment, a currency, all the different things you can do with blockchain. They're simply going to say, we're going to reduce your risk, increase your return, and allocate an insignificant amount of your portfolio to crypto, and it's going to make a significant difference over the next 1 to 2 decades. Simple as that. And this is going to be a home run product for BlackRock and many others out there. So let's listen to what he has to say. And I like he doesn't have wild proclamations. Bitcoin's going to go to 1 million. Doesn't get into price. Pretty informative video. Let's hit the play button.
An opportunity to talk to you about it, which is Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ETF. We're going to be talking to Gary Gensler, the chair of the SEC, who made that decision reluctantly, maybe even begrudgingly, which was announced just 2 days ago, and we talked a lot about yesterday on the broadcast. How big a deal is that for BlackRock? And this was, for you, a big switch as well, because you were a naysayer for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I probably switched. For the first 3 years of thinking about it, I was a naysayer, and about 2 years ago, I switched. And I'm actually, as I said in the last 2 years, I'm a big believer.
Are you a believer personally?
This is the thing. A lot of times in crypto, people try to point the finger and say, you used to hate on cryptocurrencies, or you said bad things about Bitcoin. You said it would be worthless. This is what it's all about. We should celebrate this. We want people to change their minds. There's nothing wrong with that. As things develop, you watch it and make an informed decision, and sometimes that changes. But furthermore, we don't want to heckle people when they come on board. That's what mass adoption is about. Convincing people, what, this is legitimate. This is an asset class of the future. And that's what we're seeing here. And I know a lot of people will go after him for the statements he made in the past. We should really celebrate this. This is what we're trying to do, bring people on board. So always important to keep that in mind.
Meaning, is the Fink family a Bitcoin buyer or a buyer of this new ETF?
Well, now I could do that. I cannot, I don't want to compete with our clients, so I don't buy single assets. I'll buy mutual funds. I'll buy single ETFs. So I have an opportunity to do that now. But I'm a believer in it because I do believe it is an alternative source for wealth holding. I don't believe it's ever going to be a currency. I believe it's an asset class.
You don't believe it ever becomes a currency?
No, I think we're going to create digital currencies. We're going to use the technology for it. We're going to use the blockchain.
How important is that, though, to then the long-term value proposition
of Bitcoin?
Of Bitcoin. If it's not something that ultimately becomes a currency, if it's simply, we'll call it digital gold, it's an asset of some sort, what does that mean?
It means,
in terms of price,
I believe it goes up if the world is more frightened, if people have fearful of geopolitical risk, they're fearful of their own risk. It's no different than what gold represented over thousands of years. It is a asset class that protects you. Right. And unlike gold, where we manufacture new gold, we're almost at the ceiling of the amount of Bitcoin that be created.
When you hear somebody like Cathie Wood.
So people get into this big argument about, will Bitcoin ever be a currency, or crypto at large for that matter? And I would argue in a lot of ways it already is. It's a currency for the digital realm. It is a base currency. And will it be used for small payments, buying coffees, things of that nature? No, probably not, because to make Bitcoin able to do that efficiently, low cost, you would strip it of much of its value. And so that's what leaves lanes open for other altcoins. And this is why we will have many blockchains out there, and you'll see other ETFs, because you're going to have, every blockchain will have its strength and weakness in place, within cryptocurrencies if it's going to be successful. And we see that happening right now, whether we have payments focus, programmability with smart contracts. I think with Bitcoin, it's sound money principles. So that's what this is all about. And I don't see the need to really get in these big theoretical arguments. Just because Bitcoin's not used for buying coffees doesn't really mean much at all.
Yes.
Who was on our broadcast yesterday say that her base case is that this turns into a $600,000 a Bitcoin valuation, base case, and a million plus in a super optimistic case. Are you anywhere in her realm?
I haven't thought about it. To me, that what we are trying to do is offer an instrument that can store wealth. I think if it gets that even close to that high, gold will represent even a bigger value. And let's be clear, if you think it's digital gold, there's going to be a reference point between gold and Bitcoin. But let me get back to what
I like the fact that he's not making wild proclamations. Bitcoin's going to go to XYZ, or crypto in general. And really, all he's concerned about is there's demand there. And he has a lot of clients that want to put their money in crypto. And if he doesn't offer that, well, they're going to lose that value under management. And I think that's really, when you look at Vanguard and some of these other ones, I understand the stance they're taking, but they will lose because investors are demanding this product. And if you don't offer it, someone else will, and they're going to take that value and they're going to get the management fees. And it's as simple as that. Larry Fink doesn't care if Bitcoin goes to 10 million or 50,000. He just wants you, when you're buying your Bitcoin, for him to manage it and take his fees. Pretty easy.
What happened yesterday, a part of our announcement that you mentioned in the opening, that we changed the architecture of our firm.
Right.
And much of it has to do with how we think about iShares and ETFs.
This is really important. It seems like he's just going to be pitching ETFs, and that has been a significant change within investing. Of course, so many people use just ETFs to invest. But I think the important thing what he's leading into is the tokenization of assets in general and how this will play within the investment scene and how they're building towards that, and how this is kind of the first step. This Bitcoin ETF is a small step as they go fully digital. And anyway, he'll break it down here in a pretty meaningful way.
When we bought BGI, very few people believed in that acquisition. And we were pretty mistreated for a couple of years, because we said active and passive can coexist. Obviously, we were right in that too. We said the fixed income market will be transformed through ETFs. That has now happened. Yesterday, we had the first day of Bitcoin ETFs. And our reorganization is taking that ethos of what has happened over the last 10 years. We believe ETFs is a technology that's going to transform every asset class. We believe everything will be done through ETFs. And so we believe this is just the beginning, and we needed to embed ETFs across the entire.
So what does that mean? If you're Rick Reeder, who we've had on the broadcast for years.
Rick is now doing more ETFs in his active space now. There's a great example of how we are taking what a very active investor and now putting that into an ETF platform. Let me be clear. I think ETFs are step one in the technological revolution in the financial markets. Step two is going to be the tokenization of every financial asset. And to me, this is where we believe it's going. So we're looking at Bitcoin, we're looking at ETFs in the same manner. These are technological changes that can allow us to move forward.
What did you see yesterday, by the way, in terms of inflows as it relates to Bitcoin?
We were very happy with the flows. It appears that we received about 40% of the flows yesterday. I mean, one day doesn't make anything.
Are these new customers? Are these people who are coming out of other funds? I mean, Grayscale.
I want to go back to that tokenization talk, and I believe he's going to touch on it more. But there's a lot of reasons why they want to do this. Of course, it's going to lower costs. Someday we probably will have 24/7, 365 security market trade, just like we do with cryptocurrencies. Big deal there as well. And then further government tracking, of course. Everything's on a ledger. They can see exactly, where assets go, and that's part of it. Money laundering, all sorts of things. Everything is going to be tokenized is what I'm getting at. Your money through CBDCs, and there's a lot of bad stuff there. Your real estate interests, and pretty much ownership of everything will be tokenized on some sort of blockchain, either public or private at some point in time. and they understand this is where this whole space is going and really this global economy. And it's rolling out in stages, and that's really what he's talking about.
Is the biggest player in this space right now. Are you trying to take share from them in terms of taking those clients over, or are you trying to create a new class of customer?
Primarily, we're trying to create an opportunity for new customers can invest in this financial instrument. Over the long run, do we believe, just think about the fee differential between an ETF and some of these trusts.
Right.
These trusts are like 120 basis points.
Very expensive. We were talking with the head of Grayscale yesterday. And still an expensive product.
And these are 20 to 30 basis points in the ETF wrapper.
Well, it's expensive, by the way, if you're a Grayscale customer to sell your shares.
Well, it's very
taxes.
expensive. Yes, and this is the big issue with the SEC, and this is something you may want to ask Gary. The industry asked to transfer in kind into an ETF, and that was denied by the SEC. That's a fine.
Meaning let's just put a fine point on that. The industry, meaning companies like yours, asked the SEC to allow folks who might have owned shares via a Grayscale to be able to transfer those in kind to a BlackRock or to Fidelity or whomever.
And so that there would be no tax ramifications. That was not denied. They wanted to really just create from scratch cash only, which we all respect the SEC's reasoning.
That creates an opportunity actually for Grayscale to keep those customers for a much longer time.
It does, but I think over the long run, when you start adding up the fees and adding up the fees, people are going to start thinking about redeeming and then ultimately going into an ETF.
Longer.
And that's pretty nasty by the SEC, at least to my understanding. There's no other ETF where you can't get paid out in the actual commodity, the underlying commodity if you want. And they made this special rule for Bitcoin that you can only get paid out in cash. You cannot redeem the underlying Bitcoin. Grayscale, BlackRock, Fidelity, they all wanted to do in-kind redemptions. SEC won't let them. So anyway, I think you can see where we're going. There's stages to this tokenization and really digitization of the global economy. And we are making progress. All of these are small points in time, but they add up to a whole new world where you're going to have values flowing in real time, and you're just going to be able to do a lot here that you couldn't before. And I think that Bitcoin ETF passing was a big moment in this process. Let me know what you think down below. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.